Here's why I use U.S. lines of credits and credit cards from the United States, even though I no longer live in the United States full-time. Hello and welcome back to the Traveling Report. Today, I'm going to go over why I don't particularly use credit cards from other countries all that often, and why the US still has dominance over credit and financing in a way that no other country does. So presently I'm in beautiful Moldova, and here honestly American credit is very well received, and of course American companies have monopolies over credit. If you look at the largest payment processors, they are all American. And so with this being the case, of course, creating US credits makes sense, because not only do they dominate credit cards, they dominate the payment processors that even debit cards use. And so it's with this that you sort of get a ability, right, to utilize stuff that otherwise would have given you worse fees, lower rewards, and overall less for every dollar you spend. And so it's with this that you sort of create a better experience for your banking, and you also create more of a moat around whatever you're doing, as especially accepting US credit cards and so forth is necessary, at least on a basis of creating certain amounts of products. And especially if you're doing online business, accepting US credits is a non-negotiable. Now, of course, in commerce, and especially in commerce in a lot of more developed European countries, this isn't hard, and there's many ways to do it. However, a lot of countries, you actually run into issues accepting payment from US cards. Now, there are ways to get around this. Very easy, to be honest, to get around any particular block of payment processors. And if you'd like me to create a video on why payment processors block certain jurisdictions and how to get around them, be happy to do so. However, with that, you kind of get an understanding of the dominance that US credit has. It's the number one thing that you should accept, then it's also massively dominant, which creates a sort of gap for many businesses, especially small and medium-sized enterprises in countries like Moldova and Ukraine and the lesser developed nations in Eastern Europe, that it becomes harder to accept international wires. And so obviously, with me being in this industry for a while, I've learned how to kind of circumvent all of these issues. And of course, this creates US credits value as well, because if you use a US credit card, you get a US credit score. If you have a US credit score, you can get loans, you can get things like this that many people may not think are important, however are massively underappreciated from a US perspective. And of course, if you're looking for the best loan options, I will do a breakdown of how loaning in the United States works, and then I will additionally do breakdowns of specific countries and how they work in terms of loans and what you need in this regard for loans. Of course, presently I am dealing with a lot of consulting, and if you want, you can apply for a 15-minute consult call, free of charge. And in my consult calls, it's a lot of questions about, how am I going to afford these things? I can float the capital. However, I need time to pay it back. And typically, a month is enough time to float on these loans, and then you can pay it back. Well, that's exactly what a credit card was built for. You float the money for a month, and then you pay it back in full on the end of that month, and that creates a solid buffer for even just a month while you fund whatever you're funding, or you find a client, or. And this creates a large gap that, honestly, a lot of credit cards that are utilized and a lot of credit products that are utilized outside of the United States cannot hold a candle to. And especially the access of just how much you can get in US credits is unmatched, as I personally, I'm not that old. I don't have that much in credit history, but I can get thousands of dollars in credit lines, which at the age I'm at is difficult to do in other countries. Now, I am working on actually being able to float loans at much larger amounts, but that's because I'm building businesses, and business credits is different to personal credits, and you can take much larger loans for businesses than you can personal in most countries. And so it's with this that you kind of gain a large understanding of the benefits of being in the US credit industry. And even if you just open an account for a US credit card and you use it once a month, that is actually more beneficial to you than you will realize, as in a lot of the world you can gain access to a secured card which you then can use against whatever, and even a secured card you can kind of build up, and after 6 months of using it once, then you get a $500 free float card where it isn't prepaid. And this is the main thing that you can kind of arbitrage, is utilizing US credits to float on businesses, to float on personal expenses while you build your business, and then you create a moat and a solid business, and all of a sudden you are doing well for yourself. So if you enjoyed this breakdown of why US credits is beneficial to your business and your personal finances, even abroad, then I would appreciate a like. If you really enjoyed it, I would appreciate you sharing the video. And if you want to join me on this journey of internationalization, feel free to subscribe. This has been the Traveling Reports, and I'm signing off.